So the next little job in the garage is to take 25 thou off one of these heads. Now this head's actually been damaged beyond repair and use, so I have it as a test piece. So the first thing I had to do was remove the damage from the face on the bottom here so it would actually sit flat on my mill, and as you can see it's going to be about the size that this mill will take, and it won't take anything much bigger, but anyway it'll be able to do it. So what I'm going to do is measure these bores where the cam goes, the bearing surfaces here, to make sure that the head doesn't have a bend this way. Once I've done that, I've got to clock it up first. Once I've done that, I can then flip it over and take a cut off this side without clamping it down, putting a bend into it before I make the cut on this side. So to make sure that with this head clamped onto the mill like it is, that I'm not imparting a twist in it, I've cut 3 little shims. These are 4 thou shims, so they'll go 2 at this end, 1 each side, and the other one will go on this end. So being supported at 3 points, it won't be twisted in any way, and I can make all the measurements. When I've got it flipped over, I'll do the same thing, mount it on 3 points. I will shim it up so that the head is flat and square to the spindle as much as possible. It'll be pretty accurate, and then I'll just clamp it down lightly and just make some cuts. The intention is to use probably a 10mm end mill and just go back and forth, rather than using a fly cutter, which can introduce a dip in it. So a lot more work, but the accuracy will be there. Anyway, let's see how she goes. Before I can check if the head is bowed in this direction, I need to get it lined up on the mill in this direction. So what I've done is got the indicator on this edge of the cam bores, so that basically it's on the vertical part of the bore or close to it. And then so I've got it set to about 20, and if I move along to the other bearings, it's a bit more gentle here, you can see lines up pretty good. It's not dead perfect, but for this purposes it'll be just fine according to me. Get to this one, won't bother going all the way to the end. I don't need to see the head traversing across my mill. So it's about 20 all the way along, so that's fine. So the next setup will be to measure the height of the bottom of these cam bearings, so that's why I had to get it perfectly straight on this bed. In this first photo you can see how I've got the DTI on the bottom of the cam bores. These next photos are of the actual DTI reading in successive cam bores as the head is moved along. So as you can see, there is some slight variation in the gauge, but it's more of caused by the slope of the cylinder head rather than a bend in it, so it's progressive. All right, I've got a rough plan of the fixture plates I'm going to need to bolt to the head that I can then clamp down on my mill, which will hold it securely, plus also allow me to shim it up so it's all flat and level. So that's the basic drawings, one for each end. I've got a piece of aluminium plate about 12mm thick from my mate Kevin, so I'm just going to cut that off using my drop saw. And to that end I've taken the this blade out, and the 40 tooth blade, carbide tipped. I have used this before to cut aluminium, and now we've got a 60 tooth blade in this, and this is exactly what I'm going to use to cut the aluminium. Obviously it's designed to cut wood, but in actual fact it does a very, very nice cut on aluminium. Makes a bit of noise, throws chips all over the place, but does a good job. You can all set it up, clamp it down and cut away. Certainly easier and faster than hacksawing, and you get a better finish. Square, all those other good things. Anyway, see how it goes. I cut these two plates using my drop saw with a reasonably fresh 60 tooth carbide blade, which works all right. It does spread little chips all around the garage, but you know, makes a reasonable cut. Then I mounted them up in the mill and made the sides parallel, squared it up, all of that good stuff. Now while I was doing that, I noticed what I thought looked like one end was not clamping down properly, so I thought, I had a bit of a look after I'd finished milling the last piece, and I found that the plate that this was cut from is not flat. So I've just spent a whole day more or less cutting these out, milling it all nice and square, only to find that I can't use them because they're not flat. I thought about borrowing my mate's mill and vise and just clamping it in on the sides and then taking a skim off top and bottom, but it's actually like 1 millimeter or so bow in these plates, so that would leave it a little bit thin in my opinion, so not very good. The other way I could have done it was fit them up in the forejaw and take a skim off, which would have made it flat on one face, and then clamp that down in the mill and cut the other side off using the mill to come to a particular thickness of plate, because they both have to be the same. Well, ideally they'll both be the same, because the GSXR1000 head is going to be mounted on top of these after they're fixed to the head. Anyway, so thanks to my good friend Kevin, I now have some 20mm thick plates, which I'm going to put in the mill. Now this is flat, just to square up and put a nice finish on the ends here. So basically starting again. We'll see how it goes. I think this might be the end of this video. I will start another one once these plates are drilled and milled and basically ready to bolt to the head. Yep, and then that will be clamped into the mill. Anyway, see you.